From sleepy ex-communities whose bounds are purportedly roamed by past residents since deceased, to ominous and iconic mill sites frequented by daredevils and dark tourists alike, many of whom report run-ins with ghastly manifestations. Are you sure you're ready to brave our second list of picks for some of the most haunted places in Utah? Number 5. Weber State University. Weber State University, which is based out of Ogden in Utah, is a public institution that's grown from small roots into a major state undergraduate program, serving not just Utah, but students from across the globe. Historically, in 1889, Weber was initially founded under the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as the Weber State Academy, and its first classes, which would meet on January 7th, would include just 98 students. Through the early 20th century, Weber would welcome a range of changes and would re-establish itself a number of times, such as in 1902 as Weber Academy, in 1918 as Weber Normal College, and again in 1922 as Weber College. Unfortunately, by the late 1920s, Weber would undergo financial difficulties, after which in 1931 the state would step in, taking over operations of the expanse, and in 1954 the institution was moved from downtown to its current campus. In 1962, Weber College would be re-established as Weber State College. In 1964, it would begin offering 4-year degrees. In 1984, the school's first graduate program was added, and on January 1st of 1991, Weber would be re-established a final time due to its status upgrade as Weber State University. Weber State University remains open into the present, accommodating an enrollment of around 25,000 students, while offering more than 250 certificate and degree programs across 7 separate colleges. While it's unknown who or what exactly haunts Weber's campus, some theories point to spirits of either former faculty or students who love the school and lives since spent, while others claim paranormal phenomena on site may be related to an incident in 1993 in which a student pulled out a gun and started shooting and was in turn shot by a campus officer and later died of his wounds. Whatever the case, to date, both staff and those enrolled have reported a range of inexplicable happenings, including extreme cold spots felt through the heat of summer, the constant feelings of being watched or of being followed, and otherworldly noises detected from within various walls. Spook lights have been observed flitting through buildings that are closed and locked for the night, phantom gunshots have been heard on occasion, and shadowy figures have been spied stalking the living at great lengths. Number 4. The Cottonwood Paper Mill. The Cottonwood Paper Mill, which is located at the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon out of Cottonwood Heights in Utah, is a popular abandoned stone structure infamous for its reputation as one of the more haunted places through the region. Historically, in 1883, this mill was constructed under publication company the Deseret News, under the direction of one Henry Grow, and during its operation, it could produce up to 5 tons of paper per day, all the while providing jobs to the community for nearly a decade. Unfortunately for this budding mill op, the railroad would result in most seeking cheaper paper from elsewhere, resulting in dealings going under. In 1892, Cottonwood Paper Mill was sold to the Granite Paper Mills Company, and unfortunately, just a year later on April 1st of 1893, a paper fire would break out on site. Sadly, due to the fact that it was April Fools, many heard the alarm sound but figured it was just a prank, resulting in massively delayed firefighting efforts. When the tragedy was said and done, all that remained of the old mill was little more than a skeleton. In 1927, the structure was partially rebuilt and transformed into an open-air dance hall known as the Old Mill Club. Until the 1940s, it would remain as such, and through the 1960s, prominent rock bands would begin playing and meeting on site on Fridays and Saturdays. Through the 1970s and 80s, the mill was utilized as a haunted house and craft boutique, and in 1966, the venue was declared a historic site under the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers. And in 2005, after falling into disrepair, Cottonwood was condemned by the city. From the time of its condemnation and onward, though it's officially closed to the public, the Cottonwood Paper Mill has acted as target to daredevils, partiers, vandals, dark tourists, and thieves. Though currently, local parties are aiming to eventually renovate and restore the should-be prestigious property into a gallery and dance hall once more. Some of the most popular local legends surrounding the Cottonwood paper mill tell that its bounds are haunted by the spirits of 2 people and of 1 dog, who were all burned alive in the fire, and are also roamed by a ghostly former caretaker. And those braving the site have reported doors opening and closing on their own, lights that flick on suddenly despite the building being completely disconnected from electricity, extreme cold spots, disembodied voices and footsteps, and phantom barking that always seemingly emanates from just out of sight. Number 3. The Bonneville Salt Flats. The Bonneville Salt Flats, which are located within TOOELE County in northwestern Utah, are an iconic expanse famous for being one of the flattest places on Earth, as well as for acting as a popular destination location for racing enthusiasts, who swarm the region each year to watch new attempts at setting various land speed records. Historically, the Bonneville Salt Flats are a remnant of a large lake that previously covered a good portion of what is now Utah between 14,000 and 32,000 years ago, and are actually the largest of the many flats west of the Great Salt Lake. In more recent history, in 1827, trapper, explorer, and frontiersman Jedediah Smith was perhaps the first non-native person to set eyes on the flats while on his way home from his first expedition to California. In 1901, one Bill Rochelle, accompanied by 2 local businessmen, would test the salt flooring for driving suitability, a test we imagine it passed with flying colors. And in 1910, a railway line was fashioned across the flats, marking the first permanent crossing to do so. In 1914, the first documented instances of motor car racing on the Bonneville Salt Flats was recorded when Teddy Tetzloff set the first land speed record, and later in 1925 after Ab Jenkins beat out a special excursion train by 10 minutes crossing the flats, the practice's popularity would soar. In the present, the Bonneville Salt Flats are maintained by the Bureau of Land Management and are a popular tourist destination, offering their ever-legendary Bonneville Speedway and numerous events each year. While today, the flats may seem all fun and games, through the 1800s, making your way across them was a treacherous journey, and many perished en route west. To top this off, countless murders, robberies, and the like transpired near, and many claim the spirits of those whose lives were affected by this vast nothingness might just wonder its breadth. Those frequenting the flats have reported a range of chilling supernatural phenomena, including a general uneasy feeling, disembodied voices heard on the winds, and extreme cold patches felt in adverse weather. Several informal investigations of Bonneville have yielded high EMF levels, chilling EVPs, and orbs in photography and video, while others have told of the constant feelings of being watched or being followed, of encounters with shadowy figures, and of hallucinations of long-dead individuals who wander about. Number 2. Ophir. Ophir, which is located within TOOELE County in Utah, is a census-designated location that today sits nearly as quiet as a ghost town, though a handful of families have retained residence across its bounds. Historically, the town of Ophir would initially form from mining claims established under one Colonel Patrick Connor's soldiers in 1860, after which the community would derive its intriguing moniker after the biblical place Ophir, from which King Solomon supposedly brought his gold to Israel. Word of Ophir's natural mineral deposits and veins spread out on the wind like fire, and shortly following its creation, it would be flooded by miners from Nevada and California, all seeking to strike it rich. Soon, Ophir would tote a number of stores, brothels, saloons, and dance halls in order to accommodate its ever-increasing populace. Notably, in 1911, zinc strikes would result in the establishment of a whole new slew of local mining ops, and mining of this particular material would continue until 1959. Prior to 2016, Ophir was documented as one of the smallest incorporated municipalities in the state. However, after issues arose in an attempt to form a town government from its remaining citizens, it was actually officially disincorporated. Pretty harsh if you ask us. Today, Ophir sits as little more than a ghost town, with its weathered structures unlocked at times for viewing and for exploration. The entirety of the expanse is managed under a volunteer group of 20 people or so who still live near. Oh, and locals don't take too kindly to trespassers on private properties that do still exist, and honestly, if the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and other horror novels and cinema have taught us anything, we have a feeling Ophir is the small enough kind of place where the law might just be taken into local hands at times, so be careful out there. Chillingly, the Hole of Ophir and its surroundings are rumored to harbor the spirits of former residents since deceased, some who gave up everything in search of their fortunes only to lose it all, and those frequenting city limits have reported a range of supernatural phenomena, including doors that open and shut on their own, objects spied moving or even floating in midair inexplicably, and lights that flicker and strange malfunctions with personal electronics. Several informal investigations of the expanse have yielded high EMF levels, chilling EVPs, and orbs and odd silhouettes in photography and video. Others tell of the constant feelings of being watched, of being followed, or even of being touched or brushed up against by a presence unseen. And both shadowy manifestations and full-bodied apparitions have been sighted through the windows of buildings that are closed and locked up. Number 1. The Timpanogos Cave National Monument. The Timpanogos Cave National Monument, which is located on Mount Timpanogos within American Fork Canyon on the Wasatch Range out of Utah County, Utah, is a U.S. monument protecting and preserving the ever-popular Timpanogos Cave Historic District. Historically, in 1887, Martin Hansen would discover Hansen Cave while cutting timber and tracking cougar prints up the side of American Fork, while later, in 1913, James W. Goh and Frank Johnson would discover the entrance to Timpanogos Cave. While Timpanogos would be visited by a number of individuals, eventually its exact location would actually become lost over the years, until its rediscovery in 1921, after which, later the same year, Middle Cave was also discovered right in between the entrances to Hansen and Timpanogos. The following year, in 1922, the site was designated a national monument, and through the 1930s and 40s, the Works Progress Administration would construct a number of the park's structures, trails, and landmarks. Sadly, in 1991, the monument's original visitor center would burn to the ground in a fire, after which, for nearly 3 decades, visitors would be accommodated in a humble double-wide trailer house, until September of 2018 when, following a season of closure, construction was started on a new trailhead and visitor center, which would reopen to the public in June of 2019. In the present, the Timpanogos Cave National Monument remains open to visitors, offering seasonal cave tours from May through October, and one chilling local legend. To date, it's estimated that around 12 different versions of the legend of Timpanogos persist, and while each vary slightly, most detail the origins behind the curious outline of a woman that many perceive in the Great Expanse's silhouette, as well as of a large stalactite found within the cave system that's commonly referred to as the Great Heart. As most renditions of this tale have it, long ago there lived a chief's beautiful daughter by the name of either Timpanogos or Utana, whose people suffered greatly due to a lengthy drought. One day, a young warrior by the name of either Red Eagle or Timpanogos spied the chief's daughter and formed a deep infatuation with her, but knowing he had no chance with royal blood, approached her with a great lie. The young warrior told his heart's desire that he was actually a powerful deity hiding in human form, and that should she take him as her partner, that he held the power to end her people's struggle, figuring in his mind that sooner or later it was bound to rain anyways. Though many young, strong, and desirable men pursued the chief's daughter, eventually she agreed to the warrior's request in order to save those she loved. However, Red Eagle, or Timpanogos, was no god, and when his gamble fell through and rain failed to come, Timpanogos or Utana realized that she'd been deceived, and distraught made her way to the top of Mount Timpanogos, where she jumped in order to end her own suffering, which was by then nearly greater than that of her whole tribes, if possible. His soul destroyed and keen to the realization that he'd made the ultimate mistake, Red Eagle, or Timpanogos, gathered the shattered body of his broken love and carried her into a nearby cave where he laid her to rest, and by some accounts, where he spent the rest of his own days as well, and was himself laid to rest. From the point at which the chief's young daughter was laid to rest, it's told that over the years, in her honor, the Great Heart stalactite grew as a marker that couldn't be destroyed by time, and that slowly, the mountains themselves bore her likeness. Now, you might be wondering why we started off with this story, and that's quite simply because while some do in fact believe that both the young woman and the warrior's spirits remain within the cave system, as of 2022, this story is generally accepted as false, and far more historians question its validity than they do perpetuate its telling. But that's not to say the monument doesn't harbor its very own real ghosts, and those frequenting its bounds have told of disembodied footsteps heard roaming around after dark, of voices that emanate from empty spaces, and one woman working locally even reported hearing loud knocking coming from within the cavern long after the door was sealed for the night. Thinking someone was still trapped inside, she opened this door, but no one was there. Chillingly, and supporting this claim, into more recent times, employees have documented this very same door rattling violently within its stone frame. Also reported from the Timpanogos Cave National Monument, and namely through the Visitor Center, are extreme cold spots and adverse weather, the constant feelings of being watched or of being followed, and instances of objects spied moving around on their own, or entire rooms discovered rearranged in under impossible time frames. Taking its ridiculously ancient history into account, and coupling it with such an intriguing range of local legends and tales of encounters with the unknown, we felt the Timpanogos Cave National Monument was a perfect choice as this list's most haunted place in Utah. Thanks for joining us for our second list of picks for some of the most haunted places in Utah. If you enjoyed hearing our histories and ghost stories, subscribe to our channel, like this upload, and share us with anyone you feel could use a good scare. We'll catch you next time.